If it weren't for these baby steps, I would probably still be broke, paying off my student loans, dragging my feet, and just taking my sweet time doing it. Now I've paid off all my student loans, all $100,000 of them. So thank you, Dave Ramsey. And I am well on my way to baby step 7. So yes, Dave Ramsey's baby steps work. These baby steps changed my life, and I know they can change yours too. If you're not sure which financial priorities to focus on right now, or if you're just plain bad with money, this is how to get started. In this video, I'm going to explain each of the 7 baby steps in detail, and I'll also talk about why each step is important, because I find that it's a lot easier to commit to something if you understand why it's important. So let's jump right in. Baby step number 1 is to save $1,000 for your starter emergency fund. Just checking off this one baby step would put you already in the majority, because according to CNBC, only 41% of Americans would be able to cover a $1,000 emergency with their savings. The rest would have to go into debt to pay for emergencies. So just having this $1,000 starter emergency fund is going to get you out of that cycle of going in and out of debt. So the best way to start on this baby step is by opening an online-only savings account, such as the Capital One 360 Performance Savings Account. That's the one that I personally use. I really like it. Now, online-only savings accounts are good because they tend to pay much higher interest rates than your typical bank account. So once you choose an online-only savings account, set up an automatic transfer into it every month for $50, $100, $500, whatever you can handle until the balance hits $1,000. Most people can knock this out within a month, if not 2 months, 3 months, but you should be able to knock off baby step number 1 pretty quickly. So this starter emergency fund is what you'll use to cover those one-off expenses that always come up, like your laptop breaks down or your car gets towed. So I know the typical personal finance advice is to save at least 3 months worth of expenses, but for a lot of people, that's like $10,000. It's a chunk of money. And starting off with a big goal like that tends to be counterproductive. So you just look at that number and you just go, yeah, not happening for me. I'm just not even gonna try. So that's why I think baby step number 1 is brilliant, like the idea behind it, because not that $1,000 is gonna bulletproof you against any emergency, but it's a very achievable number, will cover a lot of emergencies that come up, and it's an achievable goal so that you can get that quick hit of motivation and achievement so that you are motivated to keep going on to baby step 2, then 3, then 4, and so on. Like I mentioned before, most people would be able to cross off baby step number 1 within a month, so it's a really quick win. And this quick win gives you a huge boost of confidence and motivation to help you tackle the next baby step. Baby step number 2 is to pay off all debt using the debt snowball. Now this is excluding your mortgage. Now, I really have Dave Ramsey and baby step number 2 to thank for motivating me to become debt-free and pay off all my student loans once and for all. To start baby step number 2, list all of your debts on one piece of paper in order of smallest balance to largest balance. Then put all of your extra income towards paying off that smallest balance. When that one is paid off, you then roll those extra payments into the next largest piece of debt, and then you keep going so that the extra payments keep knocking out bigger and bigger portions of each piece of debt. Hence the term snowball, because it keeps picking up more as it keeps rolling. According to Dave Ramsey, the average time it takes for people to finish baby step 2 is 18 to 24 months. I know, not as much as you thought. So don't think this has to take forever. I first came across these baby steps right around when I was starting to get very passionate about personal finance and starting to make all these positive changes in my life. But even so, I still felt really behind because I had $100,000 of student loans still. And so retiring early and being rich one day just seems so out of reach. So I mostly just avoided the fact that I had all these student loans, and I would read all about how to build wealth and all of this, but I really had more of a head in the sand approach about my debt. But then when I discovered these baby steps and I realized that paying off all my debt was step number 2, something just clicked for me. After avoiding the problem for so long, and I basically just would pretend that the debt wasn't really a problem and that it would just go away on its own one day, when I realized that there's a step-by-step process to building wealth, I finally decided to just buckle down and get out of debt, because that was the only thing standing in the way from doing all the other things that I wanted to do. Because in order to build wealth, you have to save and invest, and in order to have money to save and invest, you have to not owe money to people. You have to walk before you can run, and in Dave Ramsey's Baby Steps, investing and building wealth, as you will see, doesn't even show up until steps 4 and beyond. So I loved how it was a clear step-by-step progression. First, you need to do this, then you need to do this, then you need to do that. You don't need to do everything at once. Just start with step 1 and then move on to step 2, and don't even think about investing and building wealth until you've paid off all your debt. Now, that's not to say that I didn't invest at all while getting out of debt. I actually did do a little bit of both, but mostly I was focused on getting out of debt. And this really helped me because rather than feeling hopeless, I realized that if I just first pay off my debt, then I can move on to the next step, and then the next, and the next, and then eventually I'll just become wealthy if I follow all the steps. Once you cross off baby step number 2, it's time to move on to step 3, which is to build a fully funded emergency fund of 3 to 6 months. For this baby step, all you have to do is take all the money you were throwing at your debt in baby step 2, and then just directly put that into your starter emergency fund from baby step number 1. So remember that $1,000 starter emergency fund? Now you're gonna turn it into a full emergency fund of 3 to 6 months that will really make you secure. Because life will throw some big curveballs your way, and some of them are gonna cost a lot more than $1,000. Like if you lose your job or you have a big health emergency, God forbid. Before checking off this baby step, I used to worry about emergency expenses that might come up, and even though I always knew I could put things on my credit card if I really needed to, I never felt good about relying on debt for stuff like that. So being dependent on debt is not the best wealth building mindset to have. So having a fully funded emergency fund keeps you out of debt and really makes you bulletproof. Not to mention, it also protects you from having to dip into your investments and your retirement accounts, which really would be a huge setback for you. In the 2007-2008 financial crisis, so many people lost their jobs and they had to dip into their 401ks to make ends meet. And it's really unfortunate. But things like that do happen. But your investments should be the last resort, not the first thing that you turn to when an emergency happens. If you made it this far, baby step number 3 is gonna be fairly easy to cross off. I think baby step 1 and 2 are the hardest because if you don't have good money habits yet, then you haven't built up that positive momentum. But by the time you reach baby step 3, you've paid off all your debt, which means you've had to be super focused and committed and just kind of rejigger your financial life and your spending in order to hit your goals. And you're already used to putting a big chunk of your monthly income towards financial goals instead of spending it. Once again, I like online-only savings accounts like the Capital One 360 for your emergency fund. So they pay a lot more interest than brick and mortar banks. But also the fact that they're not connected to your everyday checking account makes it a lot easier for you to not spend it accidentally. You know, if you see your $10,000 emergency fund every time you log in to see your checking account, you might get tempted to splurge on something that is not actually an emergency. But out of sight, out of mind. It really works. Honestly, most days I don't even remember that I have an emergency fund. But if something comes up and I start panicking about how to pay for it, I know that that money is there and it's a really awesome feeling. Baby step number 4 is to invest 15% of your income in retirement. Now this is the fun part. Once you are debt-free and you have a full-sized emergency fund, you can now direct all of your extra monthly cash flow towards investing and building wealth. Just to clarify, baby step 4 means investing 15% of your gross income, not of the net amount you get after the taxes get taken out of your paycheck. So if you make $100,000 a year, you need to invest $15,000 for retirement, according to this baby step. If you make $50,000 a year, you would want to invest $7,500 a year for retirement. Like I mentioned earlier, baby steps 1 and 2 are the hardest, since getting started is always the hardest part, but baby steps 3 and 4 should be fairly easy. So for baby step 4, you can just take all the money that you used to put towards debt, as well as all the money you were routing towards your emergency fund, and now you can invest it instead. It's truly amazing how much quicker you can hit financial goals when you don't have any monthly debt payments slowing you down. Crossing off the first few baby steps takes a lot of focus and commitment, but it is totally worth it because it will set you up to achieve everything else so much faster. So baby step 4 is pretty straightforward. What might not be as straightforward is the question of where to put that 15%. So the first portion of that 15% should first go into a matching 401k plan. Now, if you don't have a matching 401k, then you could put it into a Roth IRA. And Dave Ramsey doesn't really talk about this, but I would also add that you could put money into an HSA as well. For ideas on where to open Roth IRAs and HSAs, as well as other types of investment accounts, check out my ultimate guide to investment accounts. It's a handy little PDF, and it summarizes all the different types of brokerage accounts, which ones you need, and my recommendations for the best places to open them. So download link is below. Once you max out your 401k match and your Roth IRA and or HSA, any remaining money should go into non-matching 401k plans. And so you do all that in waterfall fashion until you hit 15%. So you might be wondering, why 15%? Now, I wasn't sure about this either, so I did some research. Turns out 15% is actually a good rule of thumb, 15% of your gross income towards retirement. However, it is the bare minimum. Based on this extensive study done by Fidelity on people's spending habits in retirement, as well as a bunch of fancy market forecasting, assuming you start at age 25, saving 15% of your gross income should get you what you need in retirement. But if you start later than age 25, you would probably have to save more than 15%. Of course, if you can save more than 15%, you should anyway, so that you can retire even earlier. But 15% really is the bare minimum. Based on this online investment calculator, if you started at age 30, and you invest 15% of your income, making $50,000 a year, you're gonna retire with about $1.5 million. Not bad. So definitely make sure you get to baby step 4 as soon as possible, because this is where you really start to see your net worth grow. Next up is baby step number 5. Save for your children's college fund. If you have kids, you wanna start saving for your kids' education only after you are already doing the bare minimum for your own retirement. I know for parents, it's really natural to look after your children's needs before your own, but when it comes to retirement versus education, your retirement has to come first. That's why it's step 4 and this is step 5. This makes sense because your kids can get scholarships and student loans to pay for college if they really need to, but there aren't like scholarships and student loans for retirement. To start on baby step 5, I recommend opening some sort of tax-advantaged education savings account, such as a 529 or Coverdell ESA. These work very similar to IRAs and 401ks in the sense that they restrict what you can use the funds for and when you can use them, but contributing to them will save you a lot of money in taxes. I don't have any kids right now, so I'm gonna skip baby step number 5 and just go straight to baby step number 6. Baby step number 6 is to pay off your home early. Now, paying off a mortgage early is not as urgent as paying off your credit cards or student loans or car loans, because those are, of course, liabilities taken against depreciating assets. But that being said, 90% of Americans take out 30-year mortgages, which means most people are going to be paying off mortgages for pretty much the rest of their adult lives. That is a little too long, at least in the eyes of Dave Ramsey, which is why baby step number 6 is important. And it really doesn't take much. It's amazing how much a little extra in mortgage payments can actually speed up how fast you pay off your home. According to this handy mortgage calculator on bankrate.com, paying just $100 extra every month on a 30-year mortgage means you're gonna pay off your home earlier by 3 years and 6 months. If you get really aggressive and you pay $1,000 extra each month, you will pay off your home 16 years and 8 months earlier. In fact, Dave Ramsey actually recommends taking out a 10 or 15-year mortgage in order to force yourself to be disciplined about paying off your home quickly. Otherwise, you're gonna just take a 30-year mortgage so that the monthly payments are smaller, and that usually ends up encouraging people to just buy a much more expensive home than they would if they had to take out a 10 or 15-year mortgage. So even though your monthly payments potentially have to be bigger on a 10 or 15-year mortgage, it's actually kind of a form of forced savings, because Imagine in 10 years, your house could be completely paid off. But if you currently have a 30-year mortgage, then consider adding a little bit extra to your monthly mortgage payments so that you could get out of mortgage debt in potentially 15 or even 10 years. Baby step number 7 is to build wealth and give. This last baby step it's like having that ice cold drink after running a marathon in the sun. So it's the reward for sticking with it for so long and weathering all the ups and downs and just being determined enough to make it to the finish line. When you reach baby step number 7, you can start investing in taxable brokerage accounts. You can even open custodial brokerage accounts for your kids. You can help out your family, and you can give to charity. You can also go for even more ambitious financial goals like retiring early. It's that whole idea of just giving from an overflowing cup. If you have a bunch of debt and nothing saved for retirement and you haven't started on the baby steps yet, then as much as you want to be generous and help people out, you won't be able to give from an empty cup. So these baby steps are designed to help you fill up your own cup in the right order so that you can eventually get to this point. With that, we've covered all 7 of the Dave Ramsey baby steps. Let's recap. Baby step number 1 is to save $1,000 for your starter emergency fund. Baby step number 2, pay off all debt except your mortgage using the debt snowball. Baby step 3 is to save 3 to 6 months of expenses in a fully funded emergency fund. Baby step number 4, invest 15% of your household income in retirement. Baby step 5 is to save for your children's college fund. That's if you have kids. Baby step 6 is to pay off your home early. Baby step number 7 is to build wealth and give. Now I want to hear from you. Which baby step are you currently working on? And how soon are you planning to reach baby step number 7? Let me know in the comments. I post new videos every Wednesday, so be sure to subscribe to the family and you will get more videos about making money, saving money, and investing money. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next week, same time, same place. Bye!